Good evening and welcome to Solutionary TV. I am your host, Dr. Tatiana, and I'm really excited to talk about what does it look like when we think, rethink, and redream what society can be when we work a lot more cooperatively and we bring in some fresh minds. We bring in some new types of thought patterns because we recognize that the millennials of this generation, they can see what's broke and they can see what isn't working, and they actually have a lot of wisdom to be able to share, and we should be here to listen. And so tonight, our guests are Dail Croome and Daring Greatly. Daring Greatly, let me tell you a little bit about them. I had the pleasure of meeting them just a little while back in California, and they're actually on tour in Seattle and good enough to be joining us tonight. But let me give you a little bit of background about what makes their movement so revolutionary. Dail and Daring Greatly are a multi-generational artistic co-creative in the field of visionary music and community building. Driven by the focus of soul profit, S-O-U-L, profit, and creating new relationship models, the millennials insist on having a greater purpose and cause within everything that they do. Over the past 3 years, they've released 2 full-length albums. They've opened for Bon Jovi and the Doobie Brothers, won several awards, and have been on a perpetual tour called the One Town at a Time World Tour. They have decided that organic growth is the only way to share their music and message authentically. Their message is that happiness is something that ensues from having a purpose greater than yourself. They're proponents of alternative living models of cooperative and sustainable communities around the world, and founding an apparel line that is made of reused and recycled clothing called Wearable Art. Very cool. They advocate for plant-based health solutions and partnering with multiple publications committed to the truth through education and intelligent perspective, sharing in discussion. Welcome, Dail. Welcome, Daring Greatly. It is such a thrill to have you all with us tonight.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. This is going to be a blast, guys. I would love for you to tell everybody, first of all, where you are, because it is the extra mile and has taken dedication, and don't think that we take it lightly that you are willing to stop a tour and find a microphone and a camera to be able to join us tonight. What's going on this evening, gentlemen?
Well, we are actually in a private room in a public library in Seattle, which is like our 4th town on this tour, which turns out to be our 4th tour of this year. All independent, all booked by ourselves, and we just dropped a couple boys off at the airport in Seattle, and now we got a couple days off, and we're just here to explore the town, get to know the people, and maybe hit up a few open mics and write a song maybe, and yeah, that's
do some connecting. It's actually sunny in Seattle right now, if you can believe that.
I can see some sunlight coming through some windows. That's really promising. I think Seattle opened up its arms and welcomed you.
Well, for sure. Must have something to do with the Seahawks victory last night.
Oh, happy dance, happy dance. That sounds like a good time. And I'm glad to get 3 of you. Why don't you just kind of give us an idea of the various members of your band? We know that a few of you are not with us tonight. Give us a well-rounded picture of who all is involved.
Sure. So Braden Theriault from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He's our drummer, 23 years old. Interesting history. Went to university for a year in engineering program, and again, kind of looking for some answers of why that necessarily wasn't working for him energetically, and probably a lot clearer on those answers today than he was when he was asking those questions. Beside him is my oldest son, Patrick, who's 23 years old, and he was doing everything that was kind of expected or programmed as well. Thinking about scholarship in hockey, he left home when he was 17 and lived with billets, and played junior hockey in Canada for 4 years, and then had a couple offers to go to school, and again was just looking for something a little bit different or a little bit more meaningful at this point of life anyway. A couple members missing, my other son Liam, who's 21, and our lead guitarist Brandon, who's 22. All make up a real interesting chemistry within the band, and then myself, I just turned 50 and still trying to figure it all out as well.
Figure it out for the fourth, fifth, ninth, however many times it takes, right, Dale?
Seems to be infinite for sure.
Well, it's an infinite universe, and we are definitely a globally transitioning society, and we need to be able to be amenable to whatever authentic shifts need to take place. That's a big part of obviously what your band is about and what is the driving force. And I really would like to talk about that right now. I love the name, and I'm sure you guys have gotten this a lot. I know that it comes from this quote from Teddy Roosevelt. And if you don't mind, I just want to kind of read this off and give some background to the richness and the texture of your commitment and what you guys are really about. This is an excerpt from The Citizen in the Republic, and this was available, I guess, back out in 1910. But it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who actually is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? He who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. Spectacular, spectacular. There's the term daring greatly is popping up in a lot of TED Talks with some very renowned people. It's really about living this wild ride of a life with full adventure and with foot on the gas pedal, and living timid in a society like ours is almost not sustainable, wouldn't you say, gentlemen? I mean, we really do have to take a bold step forward and be perpetually on tour. Let's play with those ideas a little bit and tell us how this tour has gotten launched.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor as well, Tatiana. That's life could actually be seen as that kind of tour, couldn't it? Like, let's get on the bus and let's take the adventure and see where it takes us, kind of thing. But we again, 3 years ago, we left. We sold everything. I left my career. They left their school plans, and we actually just had a simple plan to sort of make it in the music business. But as we know, change promotes growth. And so growth took us way out of our comfort zone, and we started asking questions, like really important questions, like, so how can we possibly have our own personal success within the context of this world going in the opposite direction? If we are all one energy, and we are conscious of that through our growth, how could we possibly be okay with having personal success while all this other stuff is happening? So we started to use that context and think a little bit more universally in, how can we have our own personal success, and how can there be this greater benefit? And then all of a sudden we started discovering that feels so good. That feels better than if we were just going after personal success. And then those thoughts and that momentum started us thinking in a whole bunch of other ways. And when you were talking about this transition, this energetic transition that we're going through, me as an entrepreneur my entire life, I'm thinking, what an incredible collection of opportunities we have now with on the verge of all these changes that are going on. I mean, why don't we build new corporate models that have a community and loyalty division that has nothing to do with profits, and a profit division that has everything to do with profits through the transition while we're doing the money thing. I haven't figured out how to live without money yet, but
You're in good company, Dale. We're all working on that one, though, aren't we?
Yeah, but the conversation has been fun the last 3 years, and again, always stepping outside our comfort zone makes us challenge ourselves. That makes the growth happen. It forces us to have conversations about whether it takes us in the growth path or a limiting path. There's a lot of important questions and a lot of really, really important conversations that we've had as a band and as this couple different generations and different perspectives that we have.
Yeah.
Same too. We're lucky enough to have music as our muse, and so every day we get to experience a connection to a lot of times it's divine. We're lucky that music is that for us.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time we're asking all these questions, we were kind of just dipping our feet into the music industry a couple of years ago in LA, and we were presented with some pretty tremendous lessons in extreme to the other side to really make it clear that okay, maybe this is my ego talking. I don't actually want money and fame and stuff, because when you get to experience like a very authentic, organic show and feel that energy exchange between the crowd and yourself and your bandmates, that's kind of the most fulfilling feeling to me as an artist and a musician. So
yeah,
those are lessons to learn very, very early stage in our career.
That's a pretty evolved perspective, Patrick. I mean, really and truly what you're talking about is seeing the long-term vision that a lot of young, entrepreneurs and certainly artists start out having to have that big goal that usually looks like acquisition. I mean, that's how we're oriented in society, isn't it? That there's some sort of acquired milestone that you reach, some level of wealth, some level of fame or renown, and then you've actually made a difference. And what I'm hearing you say, and what I feel from Daring Greatly and some of the lyrics and the messages and the inquiry in your song, and even in the passion and the way that you deliver yourselves, is you're really more interested in making a difference in the world and doing that along the way, rather than having that be some sort of end rather than the means. Would that be a correct reflection of what drives all of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just going to say too, like, that's kind of why we call this tour One Town at a Time. It's just connecting with people in each place, literally one town at a time. And we feel that just the energy transfer all the time, and it rejuvenates us. It gives us energy, it gives them energy. And it's just like this constant, exchange all the time. And, when people hear the music, they're awakened a little bit, and they're like, what is that? And then they want to find out our name, and they find out our name is Daring Greatly, and they're like, what is Daring Greatly? And then, so that, that kind of, just saying Daring Greatly is like it's a positive thing. It's dare to do things out of the ordinary. So.
And one thing that's really important too, I think, is and again, we're obviously quite humble people, but it's not a daring greatly thing really. I spend 99% of my time with this group of young 20-year-olds and all of their friends and a whole bunch of other 20-year-olds, and I'm finding quite universally they are thinking a lot of the same things. Like they're looking for new models. They're looking for more meaning. They're starving for something different than the model that their parents have lived, and our parents did so nobly. I do believe that. Even though I think that the older generations are defending the way they lived and how they lived, because they don't want to be criticized for the way they lived, and I kind of understand that. Yeah, they did their best with the information they were given, but it's also time for us to understand that the millennials are screaming for new models.
Yeah.
The work-life balance is out of whack. Our ability to have relationships has dwindled. Our uniqueness has been sort of criticized out of us, and the millennials are screaming for new models, and that's my impetus for getting up every day and being really excited about creating new models, and I'm talking about inventing them. I don't even know if they exist right now, or if they do, it's obviously not widespread, but how do we create new models that that are going to give us the things that are absolutely necessary. And that's the conversation that led us to our first album, which was, well, let's just drill down. What is really important? And keep drilling down until we finally just came to the cornerstones of life, which are love, health, connection, truth, purpose, and freedom. And then we started designing communities that provide a growth environment for love, health, connection, truth, purpose, and freedom. And, and that leads you to some really logical conclusions. And then it starts to get really fun, because when you share those ideas with millennials, they light up, because this 50-hour work week or 40-hour work week that they've been taught is the only model of living, they're not looking forward to that. They're rebelling against that in a whole bunch of different ways. They're rebelling against it, whether it's alcohol, but those are the obvious ones. I mean, there's a whole bunch of depression, all that. And I think all they're really starving for is just better models.
You know, that's really key. I kind of want to refer to that list of virtues as your love freedom sandwich. You know, you've got all these great goals that are set in between love and freedom, as you stated it. And the truth is, if you're doing work that is purposeful, that you are passionate about, and lets you be authentic and genuine in the world, where you can see, as Braden said so beautifully, you know, that law of reciprocity, when you can see that your work and your presence and the message that you're giving off triggers people in a positive way, and you can feel that rolling back to you, it doesn't matter that what you're doing is quote unquote work per se, because it's your creative art and it's your passion, and it's creating that love freedom sandwich. You don't go to work and then come back and then you engage in your love and freedom. You're in your love and freedom as a daily expression. Isn't that true, gentlemen? Isn't that really what I really want to hear also from, you know, from Braden and Patch? Because what I'm hearing them say is, we weren't even going to buy into the world that once was, and the trajectory that society is still telling us we can get on board with, because you can see that the emperor has no clothes. This isn't going to work for you, and it doesn't appear to even hold any long-term goals. Wouldn't you say that that's also kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. And a good also kick in the butt too is the radio. When you listen to the radio, it's something that was kind of an end goal. We're like, wow, we want to be played on the radio. We want 1 million fans. We want to play in front of 1 million. And, you know, we kept being motivated by Maroon 5's newest singles, or, you know, Taylor Swift's, or, you know, people that talk about making a difference by giving $10 million to charity and then sing about, you know, complete crap. I mean, it's really, sorry, Taylor, I love you if you're watching. We got really good motivation from everywhere. Well, it exists in every industry, but the music industry especially. And it just really didn't align with, we left everything to become artists. And if you didn't respect that, then, you know, we learned that you got to be kicked to the curb quickly. Mm-hmm. We learned some pretty hard lessons early in Hollywood with a Hollywood manager, and, and these meetings with A&R reps, who are putting, you know, numbers down on splits between the band and the record label, and fronts of money, and 7-year-long contracts, and it's just nothing that came out of those people's mouths left a good vibe or a good feeling in your soul. You know, you always left with this weird feeling, like, yeah, I don't know. So it was just pretty clear unanimously throughout the whole group, almost the whole time. Right. Even if it wasn't at the forefront, you know, we still wrote about this stuff before we even learned those lessons, and then we're able to come back to our own music and be like, guys, remember what we just wrote? Like when we were 17 and 18, you know, let's, you know, nail down what we really want here. It was an interesting process.
Did you find that you were unified when you were open to the inquiry? I'm listening to Dail say that you guys kind of open up to the questions and wanting to stay authentic, and knowing that to be successful in most industries, there's already kind of a good old boys club that's already set up that says, all right, let's find out at what point any individual can be bought. I hate to be so straight up, but it's kind of the old adage of the archetypes. You know, everyone has the archetype of the prostitute, or, you know, some point with which we're willing to kind of err in the side of a gray gradient just to appease those that are going to keep making certain that we can show up and get paid and have the promises delivered. But if you already knew what your message was and you were determined because of, you know, how authentic you are with each other about wanting your message to stay clean and true to your purpose, how do you all build each other up? Tell us what that looks like in being able to stay in such a puritanical and an equally creative venue to keep delivering your message as a band.
It is a struggle all the time. You know, every day you're getting bit on the shoulder by your ego, you know, and you scroll through your Facebook feed and you see a band that you played on stage with a year ago who you know you're better than, but they get so much media attention and you know, they're on the top charts in Canada. So you're always battling your ego, especially as a musician. And it's kind of been not very productive for the artist community either as a musician, because I look at the 60s and 70s and they were all so inclusive, and you know, the best musicians got together and jammed and formed all-star bands, and boom, there you go, there's 100 classic rock bands that nobody will ever forget their songs, and it doesn't really happen anymore. There's just these banks of songs and stuff, and yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you battle all the time, and each individual, all of us go through these weird stages, weeks, days, hours, and at any given moment, there are at least 2 or 3 guys in the band that are able to kind of kick that guy in the ass and
yeah,
let him know why we're really here. And it's good to be able to have these guys. We do express very, very freely and openly with each other, and we work through that as a group, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've literally been together every day for like the last 3 years, and you know, we've learned a lot about each other, and obviously they're, you know, Dail and his sons, and myself included, we've all kind of just meshed together so well that, you know, it's when first sign you see of someone kind of getting into a negative tendency, you pick up on that right away, and it's easy to just talk them out of it. And the good thing is we do play music, so music just brings you up anyways, and it inspires you continuously, and that's why we do what we do. So.
Yeah, it's a remarkable thing, and I know that you guys have a cornerstone that you build off of that you know is built around or addresses some of the most compelling issues. And as part of Q&A and playing into having you gentlemen here tonight, I really want you to talk to our viewers about what you consider to be some of the compelling societal issues that you're looking to address through your music. You know, quote some lyrics. Let us know some of the things that are really driving that heartfelt passion that keep you so on target in your authenticity.
It's all really just the human stuff. Again, the love, health, connection, truth, purpose, freedom. Everything else can be built from there. And there's an infinite number of people in their beautiful uniqueness. There can be an infinite number of successful models. It just happens that we're just a little bit ill, I think, the masses anyway. And so I think, you know, from those cornerstones, we can build numerous unique models from that, but we do need to continue to be conscious about the whys of everything, of every fork in the road, and we've kind of reduced it to energy. So we row our boat gently down the stream, and it's not a water stream, it's an energy stream. And when you come across negative energy, or the metaphor is a rock or an undertow or a tree or something like that, we can actually, we don't have to sit there and describe it and label it and understand it and get wrapped up in it or anything like that. I mean, we're really trying to simplify every aspect of life,
yeah,
so that just go, oh yeah, there's some negative energy, and you just go in the other direction, and we don't have to fight with any of that stuff. And that takes us to, well, let's build some communities. Let's start growing our own food. So when you're talking about issues, to get to your question, the first one, I can't really think of anything more important than just the mass poisoning and systemic poisoning of the general population. I can't really see anything more important than that. And then that leads to a whole bunch of other things. So conscious consuming, or conscious consumerism, so that we're supporting bands that have a greater meaning, corporations that have a greater community consciousness, and food sources that don't have poison in them.
Right.
Again, I can oversimplify just about every aspect of life.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you touching on those, because you're talking about the primer aspects of being able to not only survive but thrive as human beings, right? We need to have safe shelter that was built with ideally non-toxic materials and can be, maintained in some form of clean enough energy so that it's not, again, creating a secondary level of toxicity. We need to be able to eat food and be living in an environment that has clean skies and water supply and food, and know that that's also going to be regenerative for future generations. You're coming from the triple bottom line and very much personal responsibility take on what your footprint is, gentlemen, and it sounds phenomenal. Let's talk a little bit about the application, and I want to get back to the music and some of the passion in the lyrics, but we're talking about recycled clothing as a line, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about how that's gotten some motivation and some feet behind it. And let's talk about some of the influence of being down there in Southern California and maybe being around intentional or more sustainable and regenerative food supplies and agriculture. What has your experience been in some of the application of some of these really big visions?
It's a great question. I mean, and the first thought that I had when you were asking that question, so one of the difficult parts of figuring out how music is supposed to fit into these new models, and whether music or pure art could ever actually be commercialized, and or if there's any need to commercialize that. So when we talk about in the context, and again, we're doing a whole bunch of paradigm shifts through this entire conversation, I understand, but if we build a community that is growing their own food, and we've built a growth environment for love, health, connection, truth, purpose, and freedom within that kind of community or that kind of environment, there's no need to commercialize music or art. It is there to raise our vibrational energy however we want to use that, whether it's in the creation process or the sharing process. So that immediately just takes us out of the context of the purpose for writing the music and the purpose for being on this tour. And again, we want to create momentum and we want to create a massive audience. But again, it's just to be able to go around and show people that we can be human again. And if we just make ourselves really, really vulnerable and open and emotional, and that will just give the freedom to everybody else around us to do the same. And I heard that saying in the past, but it is quite effective. It is just about modeling.
Yeah.
And so that becomes very relevant as far as that goes.
Being very consciously present and literally in the moment, it sounds like, is a key focus for each of you.
Yeah, definitely. We try and write about that as much as possible. One of our songs is called In the Distance. That was our first release on our newest album that we just launched a couple weeks ago, right before we went on tour, along with the Wearable Art line. And it kind of just, it's got this really heavy, drivey verse, and then in the chorus it's got this wavy, magical, kind of mystical feel.
Mm-hmm.
And lyrics go, you believed in something in the distance, and it consumed down deep inside. How did you wind up here? Step outside.
Step off the path.
Step off the path.
There's nothing real.
There's nothing real in the distance. The energy comes from the now. So shed all your fears. It's happening here. Let's thrive together today.
Wow.
that's the course for In the Distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of, the first album we sang a lot about love and you know, quieting your mind and
Ecstasy and serenity.
yeah, kind of just letting go and being able to feel a positive energy flow through you. And the second album we've kind of evolved as humans and musicians, lyricists, and so yeah, we're starting to write poetry, and we're starting to get a little bit more complex with our thinking and our arranging of music and
Storytelling.
yeah, our storytelling and what we really want to get across. So In the Distance is on the new album. We're pretty proud of that one.
I have heard a lot of the music, and it's really brilliant. And I love that you aren't trying to hold on to a particular niche, that you're evolving it. It's kind of a Joseph Campbell hero's journey, isn't it, gentlemen? I mean, sometimes you're, you know, in a blissful state, and other times you're in your own personal dark night of the soul, and then there's times you come out with ferocity and you're climbing that mountain, or you're battling, you know, that illusory demon, and it needs to be a rich tapestry to tell the story properly, because that's really the human drama. And I love that you're in touch with that, because that makes a big difference. I think that it allows you to be that much more real to the lives that you're touching. And let's talk a little bit about the purpose with that. Since you're taking every day, one day at a time, do you kind of feel into each venue and maybe collectively make a knowing nod to each other? Hey, this is the music that we need to be playing for this venue. Can you feel into these people? Let's improvise a little bit. Tell me how the organic flow comes about for you.
I don't think we've written a set list in 2 years, to be honest with you. Like maybe for a couple big shows like Bon Jovi or like the Doobie Brothers or something, but for the most part, it is very, very spontaneous. And this crowd is sitting and listening, and we see all their faces and their smiles or tears or whatever they're there for that night. And if they're receptive, we'll play them our original music. And if, you know, we do have to play the odd Friday, Saturday night dive bar like this past weekend. And in that case, we could play some pretty kick-ass rock and roll to those drunk buggers who just want to jump around. And there's a little bit of satisfaction in that. You know, you're still bringing joy in some way. It's definitely not as satisfying as being able to be your authentic self and express yourself however in your own original art, but it's still playing.
I will say too, like even with the covers we play, like we are quite selective with like the lyrics and the music. Like we play a lot of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and they're all about love. And we do a cover of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes and Teach Your Children. And but yeah, the Beatles' Revolution is a cover that we do that everyone loves.
Sweet.
And so again, if it's about the exchange between artist and audience in everything, whether it's a big show or a small show, whether it's covers or original, the reason why we want to be as spontaneous as possible, well, there's many reasons. One of them is, again, to read the crowd and read the energy and always be conscious of that energy. And it's fun to have that consciousness. And the other thing is for our growth, and I get to see it because the 20-year-olds have a growth path that's 100 times faster than mine. And I think that might just be an age thing. I'm not sure. Just elastic minds, elastic bodies. But I mean, we don't count bars, until the solo, and it's always dynamic. And they never do the same solo the same twice in a row or two shows in a row ever. They're always spontaneously making everything up, and I think that's what's accelerating their growth path. And again, if I say that my role in this band, because I'm truly not near as good of a musician as these guys are, it's a good thing that I can sing pretty well, so they keep me in the band. But it's really to enable and empower these guys to express themselves and to create the greatest growth environment I possibly can. That's how I see my role even more important than the guy who's playing the bass or singing the songs. Is to enable and empower that growth and that expression fearlessly, constantly, to continue that growth, because every day is a new day if we're growing all the time. It's so much fun because your perspective's changing all the time. So we we've created an amazing growth environment on stage to allow that to continue.
Well, let's talk about this, because you're sharing that being around these young people keeps you young, keeps you a little bit more flexible in mind and body, and certainly in perspective. There is a disconnect across our nation, and probably in various aspects of our global population, with these multi-generational perspectives that can get really lockboxed, especially as we get, into baby boomers and even those beyond. There's some philosophers out there that are saying things like, until real change can take place, or real change can't quite take place until the older generations die out, because very often they don't have the capacity to be able to rethink any given global situation or system that isn't working anymore. And what I'm hearing you guys say is, no, we're really all kind of present for it. Tell us what it takes to get that level of collaboration. How do you co-create together? And quite honestly, Dail, you can answer this, and I want to hear it from each of you. How do you hand the baton to one another really respectfully, and hold a vision to integrate everyone's point of view at the level that it literally is solutionary?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and I'll just start it. The first thing is that people with gray hair have to stop thinking that that our perspective is more important than 22-year-olds' perspective. It's unique, it's different, it has its strengths and it has its weaknesses, but a growth path would put us in a position where we're every bit as curious about every individual's perspective, so that we can collect as many perspectives and have a greater understanding. So the first thing is, we can't characterize young people as knowing less or having less value than the people with gray hair do. We have to be a little bit smarter than that. So the first thing we can do is give them the stage more, empower them to voice their opinions and perspectives in an open and accepting environment, so that discussion can ensue.
Right.
The first thing we need to do, and bosses, that even the definition of mentor. I mean, I think a lot of gray-haired people think that mentoring means the gray-haired person's going to do all the talking and the young person's going to get mentored. And I would say that is maybe half of it. The other half is it goes the other way too. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I think that what we need to do is be really inviting and accepting to different perspectives, and stop protecting our ego, what we think we know, the existing story that we're telling about life, our money, our resources, what we've accumulated. Stop being that protectionist, and start opening up to collecting as many perspectives as possible. And the young people have a really interesting perspective that we should get on board with, because I think it's going to empower us to have this different paradigm shift that needs to happen to go in the direction we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just was going to say, Albert Einstein is quoted all the time, but a very, very relevant quote is, you cannot solve a problem from the same thinking that created it. How can we, gray hair or otherwise, assume that we have a solution to the problem when we're still holding on to the institutions and the systems that are the problem? We really do need a fresh perspective, don't we, Dail?
I marvel all day, every day at the army that is focused on protecting the actual system that is the problem.
Right.
Defending the system that is the problem. I find that quite amusing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Quite sure what to do about it. I mean, my own father, for instance, he's a very proud man, and he truly disagrees with just about everything that we're doing right now, because the noble thing, and he is a very proud man. He never called in sick. He did what he was supposed to do, and the image that we've had as a father and a caregiver, and so in his mind, we're kind of disrespecting the life that he lived, and and it's not even close to being true. We're just saying that we're smarter now. We're evolving. Let's allow that to happen by giving them a voice and sharing those perspectives. I don't think in a tribe, that we would have survived because the older people couldn't go and hunt, for instance, or find the food. I mean, each generation has their own strengths, and being open to bringing all those strengths together to make us all stronger as a collective. And I don't see why that wouldn't be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything that sounds disrespectful. It sounds like there's a lot of honoring and acknowledging of what the model was for former generations. But we are in a wicked, fast, technologically growing generation where we are not too far away from the potential of vast transhumanism, right, gentlemen? We know that we're dealing with the uprising of AI. It's everywhere. It's in our new phones. It's on our computers. We're experiencing an unstable monetary system. Corporations aren't employing at the level they were before. Getting a degree doesn't mean you're going to be able to have a living wage. It isn't a disrespect of an older model. It is the evolution into a new model that doesn't really have any boundaries and structure around it. So we kind of have to sit back and look at it and rebel against what's broken enough to be able to say, how do we rebuild it? Isn't that really what your music and what your position is about?
100%. Yeah. Well, you say it better than we do.
Oh, no, you sing it. You sing it, I'll say it, and together we're a team. Tell me, Patrick and Braden, tell me some of the lyrics that you've contributed to, some of the music that always resonates with you when you have a really reciprocal crowd. Tell us what that feels like and what words come to you that really bring you right back into that singular place of sharing that's spot on with your cornerstones.
Well, some specific moments come to mind, and Find Your Serenity was on our first album, and that's touched a lot of people's lives in a very, very deep way, even as deep as my close and personal family, and how much it's helped them in their lives and in times of struggle. And on all of our arms, it says "Quiet Your Mind." You probably can't see it in that clutter of tattoo I've got going on now, but we all started with "Quiet Your Mind," which is a Zach Brown song, which is where we got the inspiration to write "Find Your Serenity" on Braden's back porch in the sun. In Calgary. I'm just painting a picture here for you.
Same pictures.
But the lyrics are, "Here for this moment, can't let it slip away. Gotta stop worrying about all the things I can't change. Breathe every breath, it'll never be too late. Find your serenity." So it's not like, that was one of the first songs we ever wrote as a group. Lyrically.
Well, you have to live it, though. And what I'm hearing you say is for each of you to really buy in to this singular purpose, you each really needed to resonate with what that meant. You needed to be able to resonate with each other. And obviously, you branded yourselves to keep you in a constant creative visualization, right, of holding that frequency and being a team with getting the bigger picture. And we all need to be reeled in from time to time. I mean, like you said, you can't worry about everything, right? You can't solve all the problems at once. But if you can keep yourself aligned with those that are around you that are holding this resonant purpose, you're going to keep attracting the people, the community. I really want to talk about the community too, because I know that you guys have just been right there with the Queen of Serendipity, pulling in your own ability to attract those that really get the bigger message, and they get the driving force behind the passions that you're singing about. Tell us how you've brought in this community and how it's shown up for you.
Oh, traveling's just been an absolute blessing for us. We've owned 3 different vehicles now. Our first RV burned down, and then we bought a crappy little 19-foot trailer that we sell and upgrade to this big, beautiful 1997 37-foot bounder that we pull around the country. So yeah, traveling has really been a blessing, and this community that we've created called DG Community on Facebook. It's pretty beautiful how everyone's come together. California, I guess, is where our biggest community kind of resides, and that's kind of where we've figured out what we're about and what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where wearable art started, actually. So there's a huge collection of people that are very close to us and have expressed this, a tremendous love for us as people, and music are now part of our team, and we're all kind of working together with this collective goal of, whatever it is that day. Wearable art is one of those, who our, tour manager, Bud Cole, and we live at his place in California. His wife is the designer for wearable art, and she got the whole ball rolling with all that, where she actually went over to Guatemala and did a bunch of research over there on, who she could work with in terms of giving business directly back to small communities over there, or women's groups or something like that. And now we just, she took a bunch of old, meaningful pieces of clothing and designed, dresses or outfits out of those. An example would be her good friend's mother's wedding dress. She cut up and made into this amazing hippie,
they dyed it.
Yeah, she just really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of given her, which is really cool, taps back into the multidimensional thing, because she's, sorry, Diane, she's even a little bit older than Dail is, so she's even in a little bit different of, what's the word? Generation, thank you. Generation than Dail. So we had many different, views coming at it, and the community put on this huge event in San Diego, the launch of this wearable art and the new album, and that was a pretty emotional night for all of us, I think, because it was right in front of our eyes, the kind of community that, this is the beginning. We all really, really believe that, and to see so many hands at work, only in it, not for cash, obviously. Like everyone was in it because it was fulfilling their soul, and there was just no stress around it. And we planned and did everything ourselves, and it's just one of those things that, we're very happy about the way things are going right now.
Patrick, thank you. I mean, if I can interrupt real quickly, when someone is listening, and we've got a great viewership, we started in the queue, and I told you guys this, and I want our viewers to know, we started out with just under 3,000 people in the queue, and there is obviously a hunger on the part of our viewership to understand, how do you make this kind of thing work? How do you work multi-generationally? How do you show up and be really, truly authentic to your creative passion? And how do you define success? So I want you to play with how this 3-year to 5-year plan, we talked a little bit about that, and goal setting, which we all have to do to at least have some kind of boundary around how we make decisions on a day-to-day basis, even if we are working with spontaneity. What does success look like when you are pioneering at the level that you gentlemen are pioneering in giving your gifts, and not having the focus be about acquisition and necessarily monetary presence or fame? Tell us what success is then for you.
Yeah, I think it's a moving target. It's dynamic. It's
there's also one group, and then each person in their band has an individual kind of, that's going in the same direction. But yeah, we all have, like, I'm really, really wanting to grow as a musician. I was taught classically piano growing up, and now I'm at a point where I want to learn more. I want to be better at my instrument, and I'm pretty good because I have 1,000 hours, but I've more like 10,000 hours. But I think individually for me, my goal for success is just to write the best, rock and roll song this decade and this generation has seen. And I know I'm in the very, very beginning stages of my, creative. I only started writing when I was 20 or 19, and I'm 23 now. So I could see and hear myself evolving. And personally, my individual idea of success is just to have, a song that of the widest possible crowd audience could relate to and be able to pull from, like Crosby, Stills, Nash. Whereas Dail, my dad, his individual, goals are different than mine, and same direction, same, flow, but and we're like beside each other, going down the stream at the same pace, pulling out, different strings from everywhere. It's pretty cool.
So Braden, what's your buy into the success wagon? I'm hearing you guys have really woven this together into a pretty tapestry. Where do you get the most kickback in participating at this level?
Well, success to me is like, I don't know, I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know what it looks like in the music industry at this point, because we're kind of going off in our own way about it, I guess. But when you strip it down, when you strip music down to the art form, we're all just trying to, improve. We're trying to gather more skills, more materials to improve our art. And together, if we do that individually, it creates a masterpiece. And that is always changing, always. It's never, the masterpiece is never finished.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think it's just the journey. That's part of the success. Is like, I feel like my journey is defined by all of us together and sharing those experiences and being able to grow from each other. I think that's how success is defined. So.
Yeah.
Success sounds a little bit like an outcome, right? And since the universal truth is that attachment is the root of all suffering, we don't necessarily really need to focus on any outcomes. And it's the journey, as you said, Braden.
Dail kind of talked about it originally, like the growth. It's continual growth every day, and that really resonates well with me, because I know, for me as a drummer, like I started out wanting to be a drummer, but being with these guys now and they're singing, and like now I want to improve at so many other different levels of the music, and it's just opened my ears and my eyes up to so many different things, and I'm just I'm in my own journey. They're on their journey, but it's also in alignment with everything. So
yeah. Well, you're in great company, gentlemen. I know you know that we've got more and more awakened philanthropists, and those that have been on that artistic journey. You talk about the hero's journey. You really are on a cumulative, collaborative, artistic journey. You're co-creating, and when you are living that much in the moment, like you said, it isn't about, the outcome at the end of the venue. It's really about how it feels and how present you are for the venue. And he's gotten a lot of press. I'm just going to go ahead and name drop. Jim Carrey has been getting a lot of attention in the scaling of law of attraction and consciousness and meditation. He's at a point where he says, there's nobody really here. I'm just really enjoying the process of being in the now right now. And in admitting that acquisition and the next Golden Globe isn't anything that's ever going to make me more enough. And what I'm hearing is you guys kind of cut the corners. You didn't have to go all the way through that acquisitional journey or the externalization of your validation, defining whether or not you were good artists, whether or not the public loved you. You're really just showing up in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment, and finding the community that you can align with to be the fullest expression of yourselves individually and collectively.
What's pretty cool is that those kind of role models do exist. I mean, growing up, Jim Carrey was truly a hero of mine. I couldn't get enough of the guy. And in the music world, let's say Neil Young. I mean, we could pull. There are people out there that are doing the same. And whenever you're feeling lonely, just hop on the computer and go on the internet, and there is someone who will lift your spirits up. Jim Carrey is just absolutely unbelievable. I love that. That's been getting a lot of attention.
Well, let's get some attention back to your websites, your Facebook presence, your Twitter. We're just at 5 minutes to the hour, and I really want to draw a lot of our viewers that get the big picture so that they can be introduced to your music and be able to support it, whether you are at Burning Man or an intentional community or come into town. So tell them a little bit about how to find you guys.
Well, we have our main website, which is www.daring-greatly.com, and from there you can pretty much find our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, music videos. You can contact us there. You can write us a letter if you'd like. We also I don't think we've even mentioned this. Our second album is called Works of Art, and it's on iTunes, Spotify. You can buy CDs on cdbaby.com. And yeah, we're just touring around with that right now, and our next show is Friday in Stanwood. So it's just north of Seattle, and then we play Sunday at the substation in Seattle, and then we play Tuesday in Eugene, Oregon with Taylor John Williams. He was on The Voice, and yeah, he's a great singer-songwriter, folk artist, and yeah, we're just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, the whole schedule is on there, so
Excellent.
make sure, check us out, because we'll be coming probably to your part of the country one of these days.
That is really exciting. And I want you, just in 1 minute or less, what would the next peak now moment look like? If you guys have some dream visioning and querying you do at night, you know, as you guys lay down your head, what's the next big peak moment that you'd really like to cultivate that we can help support you in?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, for me, we've been playing a lot and practicing a lot, and I really just want to show off what we've got going on, this vibe. I think playing to a larger audience would be wonderful for me. I want to open up for a meaningful artist like Zach Brown, let's say, or Neil Young, or hop on a tour and just play for people. That's what I want to do right now.
Yeah, we just want to play. We're not interested in the money at this point. We're just wanting to express ourselves, and we're
grow,
yeah,
and start communities, obviously.
Okay. All right, so we've got a vision that's coming into form, and we're going to be collectively co-creating that vision with you, seeing that peak experience. You never know. You get 5,000 people sending good intentions. Things just drop into our laps, right, gentlemen? We know how things can be really magical. So grateful that you took time away from your tour to show up at a public library in front of a computer to make this happen. Cannot tell you how impressed we are with that. And I see your ongoing success. I'm tremendously impressed with what you're accomplishing on so many different scalable levels around our collective, global issues and the consciousness shifts that need to take place. So I want to thank you for being here tonight. And just a word to our viewers. Is this the coolest type of content or what? Don't we want to keep showing up and having these types of guests that are directing us exactly to, with some education, exactly where those boots on the ground, grassroots solutions can be found, where we can get a voice, where we can jump in and either be philanthropic or be able to contribute in some voluntary way. Please subscribe to solutionarytv.com. Please go and patronize and subscribe to the YouTube channels, to the websites. Get this content and keep promoting these visionaries, because that's what it's about. And always remember, we are the solution.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.